I'm Lex,
And I'm Tay.
and this is our take on college. Okay, so very exciting episode today. This is going to be the start of our special guest series, I guess. We have a couple planned, and today's episode is going to be a two-parter. We have Taylor's roommate, Sarah, here with us today, and it's just going to be a fun, get to know you, the different people that are in our lives. Today is kind of just more about getting to know Sarah, and I bet Sarah will be back in the future, so this is kind of just a prequel to that. But yeah, we've got a bunch of fun things planned for this week and next week, and we hope you guys enjoy, and I'm going to let Tay take it away.
Yeah, so the title of this episode, if you guys haven't seen, is Meet Taylor's Invisible Roommate. So every time my parents call, or every time my parents are at my apartment, Sarah has such a conflicting schedule with mine that she's never there. So honestly, for about the first month, my parents didn't think she existed. And they were like, no, it's okay. You can give it up. We know you didn't find someone. Honey, it's okay. You can just tell us. And I'm like, no, I promise she's real. So for my parents, she's real. This is Sarah. So, okay. So first question we got for you is, what is your name?
My name is Sarah. Sarah Marriott. Yes. And I'm real.
Okay, and then the next one we have is, where are you from?
I am from Pendleton, Indiana. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. It's kind of like a suburb of Indy, so somewhere kind of around there. It's around 2 hours away from IU.
So, Sarah, what was your childhood like? Siblings?
Oh, that's a good question. So I have one older sister. I love her so much. I'm so close with her. Her name is Cass. And she currently actually lives right next door to me now. So she's moved out, but back home, she's still just as close. And it's just us. And we have a great time. She's literally just like me, but blonde. So pretty much.
Yeah, so our next question is going to be, what activities did you do in high school?
I think this will be a great question. I was also in show choir. So just like both of you, I definitely had my time all 4 years. I went to a small school, so I was in the small division. And I was in our mixed group and our unisex group. So I started off my freshman year of high school making it into the varsity unisex group. I think I was one of 5 freshmen to make it in my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I was one of 3 sophomores to get into our mixed group as well, which they, for some reason, made me double into both as a sophomore in high school. Not really sure what that was, but yeah, and I stuck it through. I ended up being a dance captain my sophomore year for the unisex group. And then the following year, stayed as dance captain for the unisex, was junior dance captain for Pendleton. Oh, yeah, I'm allowed to say that. That's fine. And then my senior year was head dance captain of both. So I was pretty involved with that for the most part.
Yeah, Taylor and I we've been discussing on how exactly we want to talk about show choir, only because people who know us in real life outside of people who just watch the pod or don't know us very well will know who we're talking about. So it's something that, we don't have many negative things to say, but there is obviously something there that, we could honestly probably get into in part 2 if we want to. That'd be a really interesting kind of unscripted moment. But anyways, do you have any hobbies, Sarah?
Absolutely. I really taken time out of my schedule this year to find time for little things that I love doing, because college can be so overwhelming. Like, I also have a job, so like struggling. I'm in 18 credits this year. So 6 classes, 30 hours a week. It's a lot. And so like finding time to do little things just makes me a little happy. So right now it's probably reading. I know that's like a trend right now, but no, I definitely have spent a little too much money here recently on books. What am I reading right now? I forget the name. It's the one that's based on Marilyn Monroe. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
I feel like we talked about this.
Yeah.
We definitely talked about this.
It's Evelyn Hugo.
Yes,
I forget the actual title. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, yes. That's a book I'm reading right now. I love it. I've had it for a day, and I'm already have a little bit left in it. So love that book. I also love painting. It's kind of one of those hobbies that I'll never show anyone, but going outside and painting, especially when it's really pretty out, right now, it's gorgeous outside. It's just a good little breather, and there's no expectations because I'm a perfectionist and you can't make perfect art, So yeah, those are probably what I do.
Okay, so our next question is why IU?
I love this question. Okay, so I'm going to be completely honest with this, all right? My experience choosing IU was probably not the normal one. So I, like I said, was very involved in show choir. It was comp season. And I just had a lot on my plate. And so I kind of put college on the back burner. My senior year, I was also a brand ambassador for a certain brand. And we, went to different schools and stuff. So I was really involved in that and just prom and, all those little fun things. And I choreographed a lot for our groups. So I kind of was late to the decision making. I toured in total 15 schools. All in-state. And I'm gonna be completely honest, my tour at IU, I was very overwhelmed. I was just having a really bad day, and it was 90 degrees. And how big this campus is. Walking outside in 90 degrees, completely unsuspecting of how bad it will be, was not the best experience. And I remember touring Ball State, which is more towards my hometown, and I loved it. I thought, everything's pretty close, but it's still big enough. And for a while, I was just set on Ball State. But, of course, that didn't happen because I'm here now. I actually applied to both, and my 2 best friends that I've known since I was 8 or 9, they are the year above me, and they went here. And I kind of would visit them here and there, when I had time. But they were like, Sarah, give it a shot. You're going to love it. You're going to fall for it just like we did. Trust us. And I lived near them my entire life, and being apart that 1 year was a lot on our friendship. And we stuck through it. We're great. But, it's hard to live far apart. And I would be signing up for 4 more years of that. And so I gave it another shot. I toured it again, and I was like, this is it. I just had a really bad first impression. And that's just me being completely real. It wasn't what I expected at first. And then every time that I visited since, it kind of grew on me a little. I also was in a long-term relationship, and we both didn't influence our decision at all, but that kind of solidified it. We're both going to IU. So my boyfriend and 2 best friends of all time are going here. So, and now I love it. So I guess it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned on our, I think it was both the Get to Know Me and the Majors ep, but probably the Get to Know Me one. I never in a million years would have ever thought that I'd be here, and definitely had other plans, and here we are. So I know exactly the fact that it's maybe this wasn't meant for me, and then it ended up being that way. So I totally get that. So the next question we have is, what is your major, and have you ever changed it?
I'm so passionate about my major, so I could talk about it forever, so I'll keep it kind of short. Currently, I am a clinical psychological science major. I also have a minor in criminal justice and technically a certificate in neuroscience. That's to be determined if I want to follow through with it all the way, because there's a lot of classes involved in that. But yeah, that's currently what I am. I actually came in undecided. Like I said, I knew I wanted to go to college. I kind of was like thinking about it, whatever, like what I wanted to go for, but didn't, go in with a specific major, which I'm honestly kind of grateful for, because if I would have gotten too deep into a certain major, it could have thrown me off. But I took like a couple introductory classes my freshman year in like different majors or schools or whatever. And I really loved my criminal justice class. I was like, this stuff is so cool. Like, it's just a great department. And I really enjoyed the classes. And I was also good at it, which makes a difference. Like, it really does. Because if I do good at it, I feel good about it. And I decided on pre-law, which was very set in stone from a young age. Everyone was like, you should be a lawyer. And that's just kind of what I thought I was going to do. But I'm still kind of undecided about pre-law. It's still in the cards for me, still definitely could happen, but I found just such a love for psychology. And I'm a very big advocate for mental health. I always have been. My friends and people that know me even vaguely know that like I'm very strong on mental health, and learning how the brain works and like how other people interact and everything is, first of all, just such an important life skill. I think everyone should dive a little bit into psych. But yeah, really getting into the research side of things. I'm in cognitive psychology right now and research methods, those sort of classes. And I'm starting to really love that side of psych as well. Kind of the more STEM side of psych, which I never would have expected ever. So yeah, I'm kind of on path right now to at least get my master's, at least maybe a PhD, but let's stay right now. Next step is a master's, but yeah.
Yeah, so our next question is, what neighborhood did you live in freshman year?
Okay, I have a different experience than both of you. So I lived in the South neighborhood, which both of you lived up north, right? Yeah, I lived in the South, and honestly, completely different parts of IU. I rarely visited the North my freshman year, but the few times I did, they really stuck out to me because it's just a completely different zone up there. The South, I definitely would say, are a lot of artsy kids because of the Jacob School of Music. And it's a lot more, I guess, quiet and peaceful. It almost feels like homey down there, And anytime, the more north you go, it's like clumps of people, welcome week, just hopping around and just so many people. Everyone's going to the gym. Like, it's just a very active place up there. Yeah, I actually lived in the South. I loved it. It was really close to all my classes. And if I could choose again, I'd probably pick the South. Honestly, all of the dorms down there are pretty great. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, and we've talked about it before, if we could have gone back and changed things, I think I wouldn't say necessarily that we would change much, but I feel like we probably would have wanted to be more central than north. I just think that, neither of us had classes really on the north side of campus. All of our classes were on the far side. So even possibly being like in the South neighborhood, like I would have wanted to live like in Goodbody or like, is it Wells Hall? Like that one that has like this drive, that one I loved. Like that was a really interesting place to live. Or even Collins, I think, is considered central or whatever. But McNutt was just a time and a half, and Taylor and I definitely don't think we'd want to go back there. I mean, thankful we met Charlie and everything like that, but as far as like living, definitely not. But what is your relationship like with your old roommate?
Yeah, so my old roommate from my freshman year, I actually, like I said, was very late to the whole college decision making, everything about that. And a major part of that is not knowing who you're going to room with. I didn't have, obviously, I had my boyfriend, but I didn't have any like close friends that were coming in as freshmen at U. And so I kind of knew that I wanted to pick someone, and kind of just, I mean, that's a built in friend. I think having a roommate is a great experience. I had a lot of friends that were in single dorms, and I think they all really could have used a roommate and would have loved that. Nothing against single dorms or anything, but I decided to, go on the Facebook pages, look at like the Instagram pages, DM people. By that time, it was probably like March. So most people were very sweet when responding, but they're like, hey, we have people. Look at this, this, and this. This is where I found mine. Everybody was very sweet. And I ended up finding a couple girls that I really liked and everything. But I kind of knew I was set on the South just because I did have my, idea of where my classes were going to be, and they're all very low. And so, yeah, I was kind of set on the South. I wanted standard. And there was one girl who wanted South and standard. The others wanted North, right? And I don't know. I just started talking to her, and just on Snapchat, we never FaceTimed or anything. And I was like, I had a gut feeling, which I know sounds so cliche, but it was just like a little bit of intuition where I was like, I think that I would get along the best with her. She's also like 6 foot, blonde, the opposite of me, right? And I mean, freshman year, we immediately clicked, and it was just like, oh, like this really worked out. It could have gone a lot of different ways. And I still hang out with her consistently. Literally the entire summer, it was just us like texting each other, being like, I miss you. It's so weird, like not sharing a room with this person. And I really lucked out. She's literally a sweetheart, the funniest person I know. And I'm really glad that I had that experience, and I still have her as a friend to this day, as someone that, it's just nice to know people around here. And we also really bonded with our suite mates as well, and just getting to know her friends and everything. Yeah, no, she's a sweetheart. I really like her.
So that leads us into our next question. So how'd you feel about freshman year? Did we love it or what?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a big mental health advocate, and I just would like to say that like freshman year is not for everyone. It's just really not. And, some people can go in and their freshman year is amazing. It's better than they ever could have expected, and they love it. And that's great. And that's a decent amount of people. But I also think that people should know, like, sometimes it's not that way. Sometimes adjusting is hard. Living with someone you just met is hard. Kind of just having to like support yourself in that way and tackle classes. College level classes can be tough. And sometimes it isn't always the most fun experience. I would also like to say the longer I was here, the more I loved it. At first, it was a shock, Adjusting to everything new is a lot. I went home a lot first semester, which genuinely, if I could give one piece of advice, it's try to stick it out at least until like fall break time. Don't visit your house. Try first semester to be on campus and find things you love on campus before, you have home, you have that comfort in those people, and you can check in with them. But it is hard when you're going home every weekend. It just kind of throws off your, I guess, just like, routine that you've got going, and you don't spend as lot of time like getting to know others and everything like that. But when second semester came around, I loved it, and I found my places. I love the IMU here on campus. And I just was like, wow, the sun started to come out again, And then suddenly I got so sick. I had strep. I had double pink eye. Yeah, I had such a bad sinus infection, and it was like coming out of my eyes, which is so graphic and gross, but it was so bad it gave me double pink eye on my birthday too. So that was a great great little moment. I was also working, so having to like call off and stuff was not great. But other than that, second semester was amazing, and I fell for IU, and it just took some adjusting. I will say, very glad to be out of the dorms. I didn't understand how much of an effect living even just in an apartment would have on me, but I feel like there's a lot more like independence this year coming into sophomore year.
Yeah. Everybody knows that I was the pretty sick freshman year, so I get that one absolutely. And Taylor can relate because she was there and saw the whole thing. So yeah. What has been your favorite class? And that can be from either this year or last year.
I would probably have to say very first semester here, freshman year, they kind of just shoved me in some random classes. I was undecided. They were like, okay, get certain parts of your major out, right? Or your degree out. And I was in a sociology course. I believe it was called Money, Sex, Health, and Happiness, which is quite the title. I learned, I tell like all of my relatives and stuff back home when I visit, I'm like, I learned more in that class than I did like any of my high school years, because it basically is sociology, but focusing on the stuff that you actually need to get from sociology and that applies to your real life. A major unit of ours was talking about, is college worth it? Like financially as an investment. And obviously you'd think coming from a college that he'd be like, yeah, of course, like I'm a professor, And he was like, honestly, not all the time. Like there are trades, and we talked about the statistics of it all. And it kind of was great coming into freshman year to kind of get that grounding. I just love that course. He was so much fun. We dove into a lot of just real life topics, which were great. And honestly, any of my psych classes, I just love them. I might be biased because it's my major. There's a certain professor that I just really learn well from, and he has just helped me ignite a love for psych that I didn't think I had before, and certain topics and stuff, and has been a great mentor. So honestly, I've liked the majority of my classes at AU for the most part. So yeah.
Our next question is favorite freshman memory.
Let me think. Okay. That's a hard one. This isn't like a specific memory necessarily, but when I think of freshman year and my highlight reel in my brain, I think of campus and just how pretty it is, which might sound very basic, but especially living down south, there are so many little rivers, and especially in the fall, it's gorgeous, in southern Indiana in general. And I would say just walking to class, which sounds crazy, but just, getting to know people, spending time, getting Starbucks, doing fun little independent things and finding your little spots on campus, your little cozy comfort areas. Honestly, that was the biggest comfort to me freshman year. I'd say that's my favorite memory, which might be an odd one, but still worth mentioning.
All right, so this is the big one that everybody is probably curious about. How did you meet Taylor?
This is a great question. So basically, freshman year, it's kind of like you're a few months into college and they're like, hey, where are you living next year? You have to figure that out right now. And that's very stressful because you're like, I just got here. What do you mean I have to figure out my housing plans for next year? Yeah. And so I kind of thought about it, and I have a friend that goes to a different college, much smaller than IU, and she's an RA. And she talked to me she loved the experience. It was a great way for her to just meet other RAs, other people on campus. And RAs, it's kind of a thing at most colleges where if you are an RA, they will pay for your housing and your meal plan. There are a lot of perks that come with it. Well, free housing and free food sounds pretty good, pretty tempting, right? And so I kind of looked into it. I talked to other people at IU that were RAs, And I kind of heard back mixed reviews. I even talked to my RA, and she was like, yeah, I say go for it. And I just was like, well, I will make this into a good thing. Like, I want to try this out. And the process is very rigorous. There's a lot of like interviewing and papers, and then there's an entire 400 level course you have to take second semester. And I basically found out halfway through second semester that I wouldn't find out if I received a position or not until the end of April. Well, that's kind of scary. And I also ended up being very close with one of the instructors of that class. And I just kind of learned that there weren't a lot of spots available, which there were like 30 people in each class and just a lot of classes. So there were a lot of people that weren't going to be getting spots. And I kind of thought, like, I weighed my pros and cons and if it was worth it or not. And ultimately, I kind of wanted to work. And you can't really do that outside of being an RA. You can, but there's a lot of limits on it. And I just decided halfway through, I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Well, at that point, my current roommate and suite mates all figured out their housing plans. My other friends that go here all figured out their housing plans. And I was like, oh, so it's April. It's about to be finals week. I'm in 6 classes, six finals, and I don't know where I'm living next year. So of course that was a little scary. And I, once again, went on the Facebook pages. They're a lifesaver. And I saw Taylor. And I only had messaged, I think, one other girl right before that. And I kind of was like, you can sometimes just tell if someone's going to be a good match with you or not. And so I ended up not going with her. And then Taylor was like, we started talking. She was like, yeah, like, let's meet up sometime and like just talk. And we met, where was it at? Do you remember? I think
we met at the IMU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We met at the IMU and we just talked. And I remember, I think you might have had a class or something.
Oh, yeah. I had stats. So if anybody knows how I get around the time of stats, I'm like shaking. I'm like, oh, I can't be late to this class. I can't be late to this class. I don't want to cut her off, but I cannot be late to this class.
And we talked for the entirety. I don't even know how long we talked, but it was just like it almost felt like we already knew each other in a way. Like we just had so much. We both obviously were in show choir. I feel like we just had a lot to talk about. And it just kind of flowed so well that I was like, also you're pre-law and I was pre-law at the time. And I was like, there are so many like coincidences and we both were acknowledging them. It's like, oh, well, like this is kind of too good to be true, but it ended up being true. And so now, it's just us and it's great. And I'm really glad that I met someone that is like, you're very good at school and managing time and you're an amazing roommate in general. Like, and so I'm really glad that we lucked out because, it's hard to gauge someone on like one interaction, but I've lucked out both times I've done it so far. So, yeah.
So that is going to be the end of part 1. We've got a couple of things left in part 2, but we are going to wrap up today's episode, and we are really excited that we will be having Sarah on for 2 episodes this week. So I'm Lex.
And I'm Tay.
And this is our take on college.